the one thing that I wanted to tell you is like this. So last week we discussed some kind of paradox of learning, particularly about learning ethics last week, which was, according like Aristotle said, what did he say? He said more than once. He said that you will not profit from the learning, the study of ethics, unless you're already a good person. Well, he doesn't actually say it, right? That's an exaggeration to make it sound like a paradox. He actually says, you could even find the language if you want. Where's the paper? Yeah, it's this paper. He actually says something slightly different. He actually says that he says two different things. He says, one, if you in chapter 3, it says for this reason, somewhere in the middle. He actually says two things. He actually says one. Do you see it? It's like in the second paragraph.
For this reason, yeah. By 1095.
It says like this, yeah. For this reason, I just want to say he doesn't actually say what I pretend that he says, which is that only good people gain from learning how to be a good person, because then it would be like obviously dumb. There's some kind of paradox like that going on, but that's just to make it sound cool. But really, he says, makes it more nuanced than that. He says, it's not appropriate for a young person to be a student of politics. Okay, so politics meaning ethics. Since the young are inexperienced in the actions of life, while these are the things about which ethics speaks and from which it reasons, right? So that was the first thing. He said it's known, and this seems to be like something that is known also. He's not making up this rule by himself. The young people should not listen to discourse on politics. And why not?
They don't know subject matter.
Right. The first reason is what it says before that, right? Where the way he got to this is because everyone is a good judge of things they know, right? So, like for example, if you know a lot about cars, you probably have some place to start from, right? Some judgment of which cars are good, and then we could start trying to understand what makes the cars good. So you have some discernment. But if you don't have any experience in cars, then you talking about what makes cars good is kind of dumb. Shiva Bachram telling us, all kind of military strategy or whatever. And for this reason, since politics is about everything, politics is about the wisdom of life in general, and how to lead your life, and how, right? That's how was like the main definition of the subject that he gave in the beginning, in chapters 1 and 2, which is that, right? We have a bunch of different kinds of good things going on. We got people that are good at war, good at making ships, good at music, things like that. And each of these are some kind of good, or they have some kind of standard. Right? There's a good ship or a good horse, things like that. And he was sort of looking for the thing that makes all of them good, right? Remember this? In the same way in which someone is a bridle maker and he makes some parts of the horse, and those horses are supposed to be used for war. So really what makes it a good bridle is not his knowledge or not his art, it's really the art of victory. So he really needs to ask the general if this kind of machine that I made for my horse is going to help you win the wars. So that's like what judges, or what the goal of that, which is also what the end of that is, right? That's the basic logic in the hierarchy of goods that he created. That we can see. It doesn't yet prove that there's only one and so on, but it shows you that there's sometimes one thing whose good is judged or created or held to a standard of another thing, right? And then he said that and therefore, and all these things are a bunch of different things, and it would be reasonable for there to be one thing which makes all the other things good, otherwise we end up with all kind of infinite regress and different problems. And if there would be such a thing, that thing would be called politics. And how do we know that thing is called politics?
The rank orders all things. Organizes all
Yeah,
things.
because politics is the art of telling us how many smart people in our city, and how many college students, and how many yeshiva bochrim, and how many soldiers. That's politics. So politics is the highest good, or at least the art of politics deals with ordering everything to one sort of goal. right? If the society in general has a goal, and according to that, you can tell us, how many doctors we need and how many lawyers we need, and so on. So it's the doctors that decide themselves. As good as doctors are, above them is the king, who will tell us. And he literally said, like the king or the politician is the one who tells us how many smart people, how many philosophers we need. Right? Or at least, again, the ideal politician. Maybe he's doing it wrong, but that's the ideal. Right? So that for the art of politics, if you think about it, is about everything. Right? So if you have good judgment about horses, you must have some experience with riding horses, and you know which horses are good and so on. And of course, don't talk with anyone who doesn't have any such experience about what makes horses good, because that would be a total waste of time. But in the same way, to be a judge, right, to be a judge in the political sense, you need to know everything. This is the basic problem with politics, right? Because nobody really has experience with everything, and therefore most politicians are the people that know nothing. Right? No, you're showing me it's a basic problem. It's very hard. And we have this whole idea we should ask the experts, but experts don't actually answer the political question. They go and answer their specific question. Right? What's good? What would make you healthy? But how healthy do we want people to be? That the experts can't answer that question. And therefore we end up with like some kind of empty art of politics, right? Where politicians are the ones that tell us how many yeshivas to have, but they have no idea, they don't have experience with anything besides for getting elected, which is some kind of art also, but it's definitely not the art of politics in their Aristotelian sense, in the sense that we're clear about. But ideally, a politician is to be someone who has good judgment generally, which means he has to have experience with everything. In other words, experience with life, human life. Maybe dealing with all kinds of people, but also just with everything that means human life. And for that, the basic condition, that's getting back to where we are. And this is the basic concept that this is an old person, someone with some life experience. So you should never ask,
Is that a student of politics, or is it a practitioner?
No, it's a student is someone who will be taught about the correct politics. And the student is the one who, like his whole concept of learning here is that you don't learn from zero, right? We learn from some experience that we have, and then we generalize that and understand the why of that, and then we can do that better. Right? So it's the good student who will be a good practitioner. But you need to somehow you need to have some practice or some experience with which to start. In the same way in which someone who doesn't know anything about drinking is not going to be a good expert. Is not even going to have the right questions. Something like that. He's not even going to have the right questions or the right data from which to start. So that's why I say it's not saying you should already have to be a politician to learn politics, but you at least already have to know all about human life to begin studying politics. And young people in general don't have that. It's generalization, but in general, that's why we have this concept of, I have to get back to Jewish language. We have this concept of atzaz zekanim, right? We always have the concept of the elders. What does it say? Right? Stira zekanim binyan, whatever. You should always ask the older people, not the younger people, for political advice. Right? That's the story with the Chava. Political advice, and it's called advice in Etzah in Tanakh, and chazal always means political advice. Like we say, yatzayach kivat chila. It doesn't mean people make a mistake. Right? Shiva sheftenik v'rishana v'yatzaynu kivat chila doesn't mean the people who advise us on what shidduch to make. Maybe that's some sort of political advice, but it means the advisors of the state, right? And they're called advisors. That's the kind of general advice, right? Political advice. That's advice about everything. How many, like we said, how many stores there should be, and how many students there should be, and how many musicians there should be, and all of that. And the precise thing called advice, or called etzah, I think, in Tanakh, is something that's said very traditionally to belong to older people. You should not ask the young people, even if they're very smart, but they're going to make you lose your kingdom, like what happened with Hakdama. And why is that? Because at least the basis of all advice has to be some kind of life experience, which is experience with everything, not with some specific thing. Like I'm a very smart kid. I learned, I went to some school where they taught me advertising or whatever. That might be some art, but it's still not the art of everything. And for that, you need to just be old. You might literally need to be old. I don't know if even Zakon Shekana Chachma helps for this. I'm not sure. So that's the first reason. Right? That's the first reason. So of course, like I said, this is not really a paradox, right? It's just saying you need to have experience in order to be able to learn. about. Just like really, it's true about everything, right? You can't really learn about anything without some experience of that. But the interesting thing about politics is that it's about everything. It's different experience for everything. In other words, you need to have lived for some time. And I guess living means actively living, right? You need to be involved with life. You can't just be in koilo. That doesn't happen. Okay. Now, also, so that's one reason, okay? That makes sense? That makes sense. Also, yeah. Now, then it gives another reason. Since the young, it gives another reason which is closer to what I want to let's find here. Also, since the young are apt to follow their impulses, they would hear such discourses without purpose or benefit, since their end is not knowing but action. That's another reason why young people shouldn't be coming to this class. I'm not good at advertising here. Since, and this is maybe less said just correctly about young people, it's not really an attribute of young people, although it tends to be the kind of way young people live their life. In general, like people that are younger have more passions and tend to follow their impulses, right? People say, your brain doesn't develop the executive function until you're 35 or whatever. But it's like a human nature thing. And the human nature thing is that the young tend to follow their impulses. And therefore, no discourse about politics will help them, will be of use to them. Right? Since knowing isn't the goal, politics is a practical art of some sort. The goal isn't to have a good theory, the goal is to be able to do certain things. And of course, you can only do certain things by knowing them, by knowing how to do them. We've gone through this once. But you need some knowledge. But the point, the criteria for being successful at this course isn't knowing something, like giving a good cheer, is being able to do something. And if you do not have the prerequisite talents or the prerequisite, I'll call it habits, of putting things you know how to do into action, then the knowing won't help you at all. Right? And in certain sense, now this is where we get into some more closer to a paradoxical formulation, right? And then he goes on to say, and I don't mean old in age, I mean old in character. It's not really about the age. Maybe the first thing is about age, but this is exactly Hakdama, right? It's not really about age. But the important thing is that this seems to be closer to weird, because it seems that like one of the first rules of politics, taken as meaning the general conduct of human life, is to not act within your impulses. Right? To have some kind of, because keep this is how you translate it. The knowledge comes from people, but as who does it come from? And if you look after number 10, but to those who keep their desires in proportion. And proportion is translating the word in reason or logos. And act in that way. So that seems to be like itself, like the entire point of politics, or a big point. I mean, of course, we have to know what their proportion is, or what the correct amount, or what the correct reason.
Is the politician here is both the theorist and the executor of whatever that, I guess,
is only the
scheme is?
executor. If anyone there isn't an executive in his at least in this thought, there isn't an executor who is going to be separate from the one who understands what to do. You need to know what to do, and then you'll be able to do it.
Does he believe that there's a pure reason portion to politics at all?
Well, it's something like an intermediate reason, meaning it might not be pure reason in the sense, and here we're thinking about the goal, like the end of studying politics isn't knowing something. We don't study this to become more knowledgeable. For that we have science, like physics, metaphysics. But we do study it in order to do something. But there is a wisdom in it. Whether there's different, what kind of wisdom exactly, but it's some kind of wisdom, some kind of knowledge. Right? There's like we have this later in the book. He gets into
ordering goods though is not necessarily in the domain of practical thought, right?
It's a knowledge. Anytime you say the word ordering is what knowledge does.
Right, but I'm saying I need to distinguish it from practical knowledge. Meaning we are rank ordering goods.
Like I said, it's something I think
in terms of how they imitate the form of the highest good.
No, we have to get later when he gets into old like levels of knowledge. But I think that you can have something that is a knowledge. There's a science, something to be learned. There's something to be learned, to be studied. That doesn't mean that the goal of the study is the study. It's not true that there isn't, right? It's not true that there isn't. I want to get to this in the Jewish language in a minute, and maybe we'll understand. It's not that there isn't any profit from learning. Like someone would say, well, learning all the theories of Musar don't help anyone at all. It's only practice that helps you. That's not true. This practicing is going to be led by some kind of theory or some kind of method to the practice. But what he does say is that if you have bad habits, and he later says more clearly, if you want a third language where he says this in the next chapter. Okay, and you have to be medrash. There's a third language where it says something even more. So the first thing is that he said here is that you need experience. The second thing he said is that you need to be a person who is able to act according to reason, something like that. You need to have this general self-control, at least, of being able to act according to reason. Otherwise, my reasons won't help you out, right? So if you're an impulsive person, I tell you, in order to succeed, you have to follow this and this strategy or do this kind of thing, but it's useless because it's me giving strategy to someone who doesn't know how to work with strategies. Right? I need to first train you how to, it's like I was discussing something like this in the morning. Let's say I tell you, the way to become a better person is to know the science that says in some book. And you're convinced of that. Now, some people who don't have the habit or don't know how to read books, then this kind of being convinced is going to be useless. Just because you might be very impressed by the need to know this book, but you don't know how to read a book. Or maybe you only know how to think that you're reading it, but you don't actually know how to make a seder and read a page every day until you get to the end, or something like that, which is a kind of art or a kind of habit that can be learned. But if you don't have that, then you being very convinced is useless. You gain nothing out of it. Although what's lacking is a practical thing. It's not maybe he'll ask you, like, what do you need to do? Yeah, you need to read the book. But since the point of me teaching you that it's important to read this book, or to know what the content of this book isn't that you should say that, right? The point is the practice of it, that you should go through the book. But you have never been taught how to go through books. So I'm doing things in the wrong order. I should first teach you how to go through books. This is why a lot of my classes are a waste of time. Because
more good marketing.
What?
More good marketing.
Yeah, it's reverse psychology. Because some of the people, not you, some of the Jews that I talk to sometimes, well, all the people that I talk to are better than most other people. But sometimes we can have like this great, like Hirusha, like Musar, service about, how wisdom is the greatest thing, and you should be interested in science or philosophy or something like that. And all you get from that is that. And that's actually makes you a worse person, I think, instead of a better person. Because you have like an ideology now. An ideology is a good recipe for becoming a worse person if you don't practice anything. Like, yeah, I'm one of the guys that believes that everyone is stupid and you should know science. Okay, so how many hours of science did you do in your life? Oh, none. Why not? Well, I'm not a master or anything like that. I'm just like, I'm an intellectual, right? I'm not supposed to be a master. Master is for the from people. And you end up with a bunch of really dumb people who think that they're smart because they know, supposedly, they're supposed to be interested in science and not just the Mishnah. And that is all because they don't have the habit of, how does he call it? Not being impulsive. I'll just give you another impulse. Maybe for that 5 minutes you'll listen to me telling me something about truth. But if you don't have this kind of habit of, like I said, knowing how to learn, then I'm wasting my time. If there's such people, sometimes, once in a while, I find such a person who's actually like that. And like he has this, it's not a theoretical thing. He has like this practice where if he thinks that something's important to read, and there's like real practical things. Like Shapiro told everyone that you could just read a page a day and you'll finish a very long book in a few years. That's like a practical thing. It's not there's nothing of great wisdom in it. It's practical wisdom. But it's not like a theory. It doesn't help you to know it. You have to do it. But some people have just that. You tell them read the book. Okay, let me figure out my schedule. and I'll read it page a day or whatever it is, half hour a day, and just get through it. And then that person will actually profit from me telling him which book to read. But as long as he doesn't have that basic sort of let's call it self-control here, me telling him that will help him nothing. Yeah, so that's another reason why you need to be older in order to benefit from politics, because you need to already be the kind of person who's in control of himself. And although politics in some sense is all about being in control of yourself, but me telling you like the specific ways, and there are specific ways and tricks of being in control of yourself, but they're not going to help you until you have that. So, like I said, there's something close to paradoxical here, which is what gets us to the discussion we always have whenever I talk about like Musar, which is a waste of time because it's talking to young people coming to what we're saying. And maybe you need some like beis pre-Musar training or pre-politics training, which is how to even be an adult, even functioning human being, which is basically me definition of being in control of yourself somewhat. But if you're not that, then you're going to gain nothing, and this is why only older people should come to the class. Makes sense? Okay, that's the second reason. And like I said, this one is a little closer to, because in some sense what we're going to teach you is the same thing as what we really want you to know. But not really. Because, and this is, I see this all the time, like there are certain, and this is why people get into saying, no, like thoughts don't help, right? People, this is why people often, because they were too young when they were taught these ideas, they go around saying that all the thoughts of like the books talking about how to be a human being are a waste of time. All you need is, I don't know, something else. Either, what do you mean? What are the people who say that a thought doesn't help you become a better person? There's no such a thing as learning how to become a better person. You only need something else. What do they say? Yeah, you only need something like that. You only need to work on yourself, whatever that's supposed to mean. You only need to practice, and there's no such thing as the theory of being a good person. And that's dumb. It's, in other words, it's true that if you don't, it's a prerequisite. If you don't have self-control, then no theory is going to help you. Because theories are like, it's like if you don't have a wrench, I can tell you which way to turn it, but you don't have to think to turn it, and it's a waste of time. But if you do have that, then it's not enough to have that, because there are better and worse ways of acting as a person. Make sense? This is why all the people that never have that basic training, like if you don't know how to make a plan and put it into practice and so on, then you're going to go around saying that the people that have theories are wasting their time. And it's true, they're wasting their time on you. That doesn't mean that they're wasting their time on the older people that listen to them, people that already have self-control. Makes sense? Okay, that's the second thing. Then I think it's the same thing, but I just want to show you it says in a third time, and the second page it says over here in the little before in the middle of the second page, it says this is why one who is going to listen adequately to discourse about things that are beautiful and just. Okay, that's another thing. And generally about things that pertain to political matters need to have been beautifully brought up by means of habits. Okay, and here he has a whole theory for why this is slightly. I think we went through this theory, did we, last time? If not, I can tell it to you again. Right, but I'm just giving you another formulation. Do you see it?
No, I don't see it in the paper, but I understand I think we did speak about this a little last time.
So you also need to be old. That's the first thing, right? Because you need experience in life. Number two is you need to be old in the sense of have self-control. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time. And number three, you need to already have, how do they call that? You need to have been beautifully brought up by means of habit. This is the whole translation, but it's supposed to be little translation. You need to already have good habits. So not only do you need to have experience, but maybe you can have bad experience to show you what's wrong. But you also need to already have, and not only do you have to generally self-control, you also have to have habits is what we call midas. Well, experience in general is you know about life, but habits means not only do you have experience of life, you also already have good midas. So not only do you need this general good midah of having self-control, you
You
also already have to have good
habits
midas.
to midas.
Be'er, yeah, yeah. What we call midas are habits, basically. Not exactly, but basically. Things that you always do.
Maybe it's something natural. Habits something you're picking up.
Exactly. So midas is like we call it second nature. Things that you not born with maybe entirely, but have became part of you because you did it a lot of times. Yeah, something like that. But the interesting thing that I'm saying here is that not only do you need to be old, you also already need to be a good person in order to learn about being a good person. But you need to be a good person in a basic sense rather than like answering the paradox. In a basic sense rather than in a full sense. Meaning that a full sense person is someone who knows the why or the causes, what makes not being such a big freshen and also not such a big misagif a good person. We don't really know that until we learn the ethics, which explains us the theory of the mean, the golden rule and so on, the middle path, and that will explain us how we can explain or what makes these kind of habits good. But you already need to have those good habits. Why? Because otherwise, how are you going to see? Like you need to have some fact. Like every theory is based on facts, right? And the theory of what makes good is based on some kind of fact of a good life.
I guess I understand. Obviously, there's something to be gained by being a good person, but knowing good people also seems to be somewhat.
Yes, you could. He says that himself, and then in quotes he said about that. You could also have seen other good people. You don't have to be yourself a good person. You need to at least be listening to the advice of good people and be accepting that they're good people. Yes, that's true.
Awareness for good.
That's a second-hand.
Criteria.
It'd be better if you know it from yourself, but if you could have a second-hand also. Yes.
Did you define good already?
What?
Did you define good already?
No. We're talking about how to start learning.
Oh, you're talking about how to be good. What's good?
No, we're talking about the idea of studying Chachma, the Chachma Samisa, Chachma ethics, and who could start learning that Chachma. And we said that you have to be an old person, because ethics is politics, and that means you have to have experience of the whole life. And also we said that you have to have self-control already, so otherwise I'm going to tell you to do things and you're not going to do them, and I'm just wasting my time. And thirdly, you already have to be doing those good things, basically. At least in the sense of habit, right? Maybe there's a higher way. You could have not only habit, but understanding of the good things, right? The principles of good things, which is what all knowledge is really known principles. But you at least have to be already see that the good things are good. In other words, like if we're going to ask a question, this is really, in some sense, him getting out of the question which good things are good. You realize, right? You're asking you like to ask the question, how do I know which are the good things? And he's going to tell you, in the same way you know that sugar is sweet. Because you have experience of that being sweet. Now, of course, there's a science of sugar being sweet, and that we could learn. But after you've seen you have experience of sugar being sweet and salt being salty and things like that, then you can go to the science class and get the theory of that, and that will maybe help you even have the sweetness of the sugar or make the next thing sweet. It's going to help you practically also. But if you don't have the experience, it's going to be very hard for me to start you from the top. Because usually we start from the bottom. Start from facts or from some basic experience, and then we can generalize from them to find what makes the experience what it is. And this means just this basic fact of like empirical science, which is bottom-up science, means that if there's a science of good action, the easiest, probably the best place to start, or the most normal human way to start, would be from already having good actions. And yes, it's like sort of, that's why it's skipping over the question. So how do you know that friendship is good? Well, because I have friends and it's good to have friends. Now, of course I might not know everything about which friends are good and what makes good friends good. That we're going to learn. But if you never have friends, and I'm going to try to prove to you that good friendship is good from some first principle, then I'm going to have a much harder job and maybe an impossible job. That's the third reason why you already need to be a good person in order to become a good person.
Let's have the experience of being good as good.
Yeah. it's sort of complicated because you say, well, maybe it's bad. Most of the trick of these kind of Aristotle is always to just, it's most of the time to believe Seichel Yusha in common sense. It doesn't like doing things like, well, everything you think is good is bad. Everything you think is good is probably good. You might have a lot to learn about how it's good and what makes it good. But he doesn't like the denying common sense. This does mean that there's a lot of bias that's possible. Because you could say, well, different cultures value different things, all kinds of things like that. And that is a problem that is acknowledged in the people.
And common sense is also.
See, Aristotle does agree that
place to place.
he does agree that the Athenians and the Spartans, and he allows some kind of difference between them, no?
Yeah. But he would probably say that all of them must be doing something good. Maybe someone is doing too much or too little. But it would be very hard for him to say something like, everyone is all messed up and has no idea, think that the things that are good and really bad. I wouldn't say things like that. Just, okay, this is all Aristotle. I want to get, this was things that I already sort of told you last time, and maybe I did. But what I wanted to get back to, because after I said this, right, I explained this last week and more clearly in the Yiddish sheet, that this is why the Rambam's Shmas Emes Mish Amra is a lot more complicated than it seems to be, and actually more contentful than it seems to be also. Not only more complicated, less uncontroversial than it seems to be, right? It seems like very obvious, right? We discussed this, right? It seems very obvious to say that you should accept the truth from where you find it, but that would be nice if it would be like some purely analytical, first principle based truth, like math, for example, is supposed to be. But since Aristotle himself and Rambam knows this, never thought that ethics is something like that, and it's not even clear that any science is like this, but for sure ethics is not like this, then claiming that you should listen to the truth because it's truth in such an area is not uncontroversial. Right? But we explained that this is actually why we need to say it. Because on the other hand, if it would be that simple, it would be like obvious tautologies are obvious, then we don't need any like nice sayings of listen to the truth wherever it is. Right? That would be a waste of time. If you're dumb enough to think that math is false because the guy said it, I don't think even the Rambam can help you. But if you're not dumb, and he does call you dumb, right? And you say, well, this person is telling me an ethical story. And ethical stories are, in the end of the day, based on a culture. Starts bottom down, starts bottom up, starts from people living a certain life which they see as good. And then they're refining it, of course. I'm not saying that he's just copying what his culture is saying, but it's going to be based on some kind of things that are done. Then we actually do need the Rambam's Hechsher to tell us that this makes sense, that this ends up in truth at least. Makes sense? And that's why I said that in my Yiddish class that what the Rambam is telling us in Shmas Misha Amre, and he absolutely believes this, is that Aristotle has the same chinuch as he does. We discussed this?
As the Rambam himself?
Yes. It's amazing. That's what it says. Because, again, if it would be saying, well, Aristotle has this metaphysical whatever, you don't know, nothing to do with your basic education, with your basic habits that you're told from your mother and your father and your dad and so on. Right? But since he's using Aristotle to teach us, to refine, to give us the theory at least of the Sechtas Ovis, right? Pitkovis is using Tatas on how the common fears their Midas Tovis and Mamish basic Yiddishkeit, Chayde level Yiddishkeit, right? That's Pitkovis, he learned in a Chayde, right? And he says that Aristotle is also starting from this Pitkovis. Of course, Aristotle has a theory of Pitkovis, which Pitkovis doesn't clearly tell us, so I'm going to use Aristotle's theory. Just like Aristotle has a tradition, I'm going to say it in the most clear way. Aristotle has a tradition, right? It's not true, unlike what the Ramban presents Aristotle as, like, you know, some guy that's apicoides, that's doing this rationalism, not going to believe anyone. That's not actually true. He's definitely not in ethics, right? He has like this culture, there's a tradition, what is good. Tradition means teaches you what is good, and teaches you from when you're a child, right? You go to school in Athens, and they teach you Homer, and Homer has his, you know, what we call now values, but tells you what is good. Right? And Aristotle more or less buys that, and of course thinks that you need to become a philosopher afterwards and refine it and understand the why for it. But he doesn't say everything the culture teaches you is bad is good as bad, really. He does accept the picture of the good person that his culture tells him. Right? And then he refines it. So he has and he goes to Chayda and tell him what kind of Pirkovis, kind of Yivudish Pirkovis, right? What kind of statements, you know, don't be full and value, help your mother, whatever, you know, basic stuff that every culture has. And then he has a theory, and the Rambam says, wait, we have the same thing. We have, these nice statements of Pirkei like, Alti Baz Lechadoda, and Stakel B'Shleshet Vurim, all kind of nice Chayder statements. But if you want the theory of it, if you want to really be able to do it, I'm going to teach you the theory. Now, where are we going to get the theory from? The Yevuni. But his theory is based on his Pirkei, right? His version of Pirkei, his culture's Pirkei, his ethics of the fathers, of the Greek fathers, right? Which means that prior to the theory, if we would be talking only in the world of theory and say, well, his theory sounds similar, it's true, so I'm going to use it, that's one thing. But if the theory is based on a life, right, and it only works if you already have that life, he says clearly, if you're not going to benefit from my theories if you don't already have the habits that I'm talking about, right? So what Hakdama was saying, basically, a Yid that has Pirkei already also has the habits that Aristotle's talking about, and they're the same habits, more or less. Then of course there's cultural differences, like we said, but that's not the important part. That's not relevant for this. So the Rambam is telling us on ethics is actually making a very important identification between what is good in Athens and what is good in Jerusalem, and explicitly denying what the people that would argue with him are saying, which is that maybe theories is theories, but when you get to the ideal of what a good person is, then cultures have different ideals and they don't work together. Rambam doesn't do this because he's forced. See, this is even worse. He doesn't do it because he's forced, right? People say, okay, well, the Rambam thought that this is just the truth, so we have to accept that and make a big doshik on the medrash and the Gemara because he taught the Greek theory. No, because he could have easily said, well, this is based on their minhagim, and we have different minhagim, and he knows that it's based on minhagim. He doesn't think that this is just absolute truth, and some kind of abstract absolute truth. So what he's really doing, telling us, is actually a much more interesting judgment, I think, than what people generally think that Rambam says. Because I think that what he's saying is, I went to a Yiddish Chayde, my mother taught me, basic ways of being a good person, and I read these philosophers, and they seem to be giving the theory of those ways. When he reads Spira Tzadikim, what Aristotle says, yeah, that's basically the same Spira Tzadikim as I read in the Gemara. But even better than the Gemara in some sense, because it also has a theory, and the Gemara didn't write the theory, and he has a theory for why the Gemara didn't write the theory. But in the basic sense, he has making identification of Aristotle and the Gemara at the Chayde level, not at the university level. And I think that this is actually a much more interesting discussion to have. If that is true, I think that is true. In other words, I see the Rambam's position. I can see the other position too, but there's a lot going for this position. Why? Because if you actually read like Pirkei of Yevon, there's a lot of copy-paste from our Pirkei or vice versa, whichever way it doesn't matter. Most cultures have basically the same ideas of what a good person is. So what I wanted to show you, so that Adkan, what I said last week. What I wanted to show you, and then someone called me, I don't think he really listened to this exact part, but two people called me afterwards and told me, or wrote me emails, that I didn't say anything to the Melshi. That's what I'll tell you, because otherwise stop. So here so today, and from that person's email, I realized that it's a fetish in the Vaktoid, it's the Flamishkan Chadishim, what I'm saying. It's all the fetish in Shnayim Spirkovis, and it even says that I'm a fetish in Spirkovis. I should have copied you a page of those Madamkan, but I only had it for myself because it's like mixed up with my notes. If I could even find it. There was a page that I printed out before. And I found like this, what I would say. So I figured out that this exact thing says Beferish. What does it say? Pirkovis 3 times in Pirkovis, it says this Drusha. Forget it, everyone knows Pirkovis, right?
The what?
This whole Drusha, that in order to
children in Athens
benefit
Jerusalem?
No, but this is a good example of the Shomne that's the same, right? Because Pirkovis says 3 times the same exact thing that the whole Drusha that I told you, which doesn't sound like a Jewish Drusha. That you have to be a good person in order to become a good person. This whole shtickle Torah that I told you about. It says in Pirkovis 3 times, not only 1, 3 times. And I'll tell you which 3 times. Actually 4 times. Okay, at least 3 times. Okay, 9. Okay, and said the most obvious one is a Mishnah that says like this. In Perek Gimel, Mishnah Yid Zayin, Pirkovis, in this Pirkovis at least, in the Rambam's version, it says like this. No, but this is going to be a good example, you understand? Because it's the best example. It's literally about this. The Blizman is Ali Omer, okay? and he says a list of things. Ein Torah and Im ein Chachma ein Yira, ein Yira ein Chachma. Give the Buddhism as and he tells us like this. If you're not smart, you can't be frame. But if you're not frame, you can't be smart. This is the Sheet that I just said. It's literally the same drusha. You have to already have Yira. Well, assuming that Yira means, okay, we're making some assumption that Yira means being a good person already. Whatever, maybe Yira doesn't mean being a good person. Maybe Yira means having good from the Irish. Nice. But assuming that it doesn't, that it somehow means, even then, Yira is, by the way, it's not true. Yira doesn't mean having good from the Irish. Should I give you a drush about this? Actually, I'm not entirely sure about what the Lowy meant, but in the Torah, when it says Yiras Elihim, it never means standing and being in awe of God. The Rambam has this pshat in a different context, but that's not what it means. What Yiras Shemayim means?
Behaving.
Yeah, being a mensch. What does it say? Yireh Hashem means, כמו שאומרים בעברית, יש לו אלוהים. Agam wird nicht. Was the Reibish Tavach? It means you have your own, right? You're a person for yourself. Like, if not Yireh Elohim, doesn't steal only when someone watches. But Yireh Elohim, Yosef Tzaddik had gesagt, yeah? No, Es Elohim ani Yireh. What does it mean, Es Elohim ani Yireh? I'm afraid of Hashem, of God. What does it mean, I'm afraid of God? I'm the king here, I can do whatever I want. But I don't do whatever I want because I'm a mensch. Because I believe I'm afraid of God. So it's not saying I'm afraid. The point is, and that's self-control, right? What we called before self-control. Doing the right, not doing only what benefits yourself always.
But the self-control started with Yira, right? That's
No, self-control is not that you're afraid of Hashem. Being afraid of it could be that you have it because you're afraid of Hashem. It could be not, but that's not the point.
No, when you say En Lo Elohim, that means what? He's not afraid of nobody. That's why.
Therefore, that is not a serious person. That does stuff that doesn't have anything over him. Feels right. That's why we call it Elohim. Because if he's able to steal, to kill you, and nobody's gonna see, he's gonna do it. Usually doesn't do it because Elohim avalish lo moirish and moirish b'sevedam. But moirish man means that you do the right thing without anyone watching.
So that means.
Not because it doesn't mean being afraid of Hashem.
No,
Maybe
it's
that's
not
the
doing,
cause.
not doing what your impulse
That's the
desires.
big cause,
Because
right? It
of who
could
you
be
are,
this big
not
cause.
because of what
I'm
you're
not being
afraid of.
machted that that's the big cause. Maybe it's the big cause, but the point of being Yireh Elohim in the Torah, not only that, you could be Oved Zur in Yireh Elohim, and you could be Oved Zur and not Yireh Elohim. Like if you read the whole Sefer Bereshis, doesn't mention ever which God it is. Doesn't matter which God. Right? Yosef Gretz Ersh Patif, go no rabbis that can get
So basically, any authority.
Your own authority. The point is invisible authority. Right? The point of Yireh Elohim is invisible authority. If you're only afraid of the king, then when the king doesn't want you, do whatever you want. But if you're a Reshamayim, you do the correct thing, even when, in other words, you have self-control. Could be there's many motivations for self-control. I'm not saying that the motivation isn't Avodas Hashem. I'm not sure. This is the exact thing that people often say that is different. Anyway, the Rambam for sure holds.
I mean, if you see, especially if you have this idea of God being very, I guess, not man in the sky, but something like that, then it's just a king who's always there.
Yes.
Right.
That's the whole idea of God.
If Elohim is not, well, maybe your I guess, or fear of God, or however you understand it, is a fear of, or a respect for the
like I said,
function of the world and its wisdom.
Whatever it is, the point is that the nafkamina for the person, right? The kind of person that's Yireh Elohim isn't the kind of person that has a kind of belief in God or that is afraid of God. It's the kind of person, halach lamas, hayotzuluni, nafkamina here in this world, between a person that has Yireh and the person that doesn't have Yireh.
That's what he'll take when no one's watching.
Yes. Or in other words, if they have self-control. Yes. But that's the point. That's what we're talking usually when the chazal and the chimish talk about Yerushalayim. That's what they care.
Why do you call it self-control if it's afraid of somebody?
No, that's what I'm telling you. It's not about being afraid of somebody. Not the main point. It could be that it's because he has afraid of somebody. But it's because what it is self-control. Because it's not Hashem. I'm saying not hold it down because it's that, but the dugish, the nafkamina. In other words, a Rashman is not someone that's afraid of God. It's someone that behaves like someone who's afraid of God. And if someone goes around, well, I'm so afraid of God, but then I'm stealing, we don't call him a Rashman, right? That's it. That at night he says really he's going to go to the Gan. That's not Yirah Shemaim in the Torah. That's not communal what I'm saying, right?
It's probably not
I know such
okay.
people. They're very afraid of God, but the master, the Shul Maridim, no point. Always when it says Yirah Shemaim, it makes a difference, right?
But if it's your Shemaim, shouldn't it be related to God? Because then you can have principles and say, I don't want to steal, even though no one's watching, because I feel I don't want to steal.
Yeah.
But it's not because of God, it's because
Yeah, that's a different question. The what, the because. I don't know if that's the main point. That's a different. We can discuss if that works, if it's such a thing, how and so on. But I think that's not the main. Yeah, if someone is like that, then I call him Yirah Shemaim. From my
so
definition.
even though it's not related to God.
Yes, Yirah Shemaim is not a relation to God. Not a kind of relation to God. It's a kind of person. Like I told you, it literally says things like that about people who definitely didn't believe in God, or we don't really know if they did. Or it's not a point. It's not a firm thing. It's a moral thing. And Pshat, and I think in chazal most of the time. Because I know a lot of people have relationships with God and have no Yirah Shemaim. So obviously it's not the same thing. That's why, again, this is the Rambam said thing. That's why it's much closer to when we say
So and they
self-control.
had them Yirah Shemaim because they say so, right?
Okay, so then you say he has Yirah Shemaim, but he's faking it. He only pretends to have Yirah Shemaim, but doesn't really have Yirah Shemaim. But I think there's even people that have Yirah Shemaim besides that.
Right.
No, and besides that in the sense of
Same,
like in his heart, but besides when nobody sees
it's
it.
being a conflated definition. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing about the outdoors that makes you fear God more than the
No,
confines
what
of
it
your
means is
house.
that's what it means.
Right. That's
when
what I
nobody
mean.
sees it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything. It can be done because of God. Maybe it's very important, so we can talk about that. But I think that if we think of what kind of person is describing the kind of person that we say someone that has principles. Principles are just God's. Man. There's not really such a thing. Anyways, but that's different. Has a different discussion. But yeah. Another way of saying this would be very clear. That's why I think someone that goes around saying I have a lot of Yirah Shemaim, but I'm not Misgabel on Yitzchok. He's not a Yirah Shemaim to the extent that he's not. So it's not about you standing there and like sitting from God. Nobody cares about that. Even God doesn't care about that. It's about self-control. Yeah, I think. Like Yosef told you, Yosef said, I said him any of this, so I'm going to get punished. I'm going to do it anyways. That's what many people that pretend to be Yirah Shemaim say. Yeah, I know I'm wrong to get him for it, but I'm doing it. So, kids, I hate this messy way of thinking. Okay. Now, it's not I want to tell you, it's a Mishnah. So this whole drusha where I discussed this paradox, all kind of reasons, there's a Mishnah, Men Chachma and Yirah, Men Yirah and Chachma. So now the Rambam noticed that it's a paradox, so he actually tried to take it out of the paradox, and he says on this Mishnah, it doesn't mean that, like, it's not an order. It says each one helps the other. Chachma helps Yirah, Yirah helps Chachma. But it definitely is described.
Which is true in the learning process.
I think that's
right?
because of the Rambam not liking paradoxes, and whenever there's a paradox in the chazal, he tries to like make it pretend that it's not. But it's definitely trying to get.
But it is true about the learning process of ethics, also, right?
Yes, exactly. That's what exactly. So wait,
you
now,
practice after you learn, also, and
then understanding is going to help you practice. But if you don't have before already the conditions for learning, for gaining, profiting from this learning, you're not going to gain. So you have to have Yirah before the Chachma, and you have to have Yirah after the Chachma. Right? Now, this is one Mishnah where it says the clearest, in the way of paradox. But as I told you, it says 3 more times the same thing. And the clearest thing where the Rambam says and he
so
actually
doesn't want to use this Mishnah to illustrate, I guess, the process of ethical study.
He does, and not this Mishnah, but a different Mishnah that says a similar thing, and he actually, of course, references that. And little before this, in Perik Gimel Mishnah Ches, on this Mishnah the Rambam does the same thing. He does say later, but in Perik and Mishnah Ches it says Chanani ben Doisei. The Rambam says Chanani ben Doisei. He didn't hold his name was Chanani for some reason. It says like this: Kol shviras chatek demus lachachmus chachmus kemus. Kol shviras chatek demus lachachmus chachmus kemus. So this is the Mishnah. And what do you think this Mishnah means?
Over time, the Mishnah.
It says like this: if you have Yiras Chet, another word for Yiras Shemaim, basically. If you have Yiras Chet before your wisdom will last, right? The sky will work, something like that. If not, then you won't have the Chachma won't work, right? So what do people think it means?
Means probably the Chachma without the Yirah is nothing.
That's not what it says. It says Ein Chachmusam is Kayemus. And then later, the Rambam says this is the same thing. Later in in the end of the Parak, right? Reb Luz Nazari, the same the Hemshech of that Mishnah says, Kol shechachmusa merib mima'asav is like a tree with a lot of branches and little few roots, and it gets destroyed, right? So the chachma gets destroyed. And it seems to be the same thing, right? If you have koidim or more, it might be, again, these are either in time or in like value or something like that. If you have more, not enough yiras chet for your chachma will become destroyed, right? It doesn't say you're going to go to Gehenna. But you'll become stupid, basically.
There's no Gehenna with all of us, right?
There is. That's put on the Gehenna, there's more than one. There's Gehenna.
There is, the real Gehenna or the fake?
Yeah, it's Gehenna. Gehenna is not. What I'm saying is that it says in the Mishnah something that I don't know what the normal pshat of the Mishnah is. What do all the people think that it means? It's not, so the Mishnah doesn't mean anything, right?
Listen to you there, but
If you're
the mismatch.
frim before you learn, then you become Chacham. But if you learn not with Frimkat, you become what it's nobody does what people think it means. And you're a it doesn't say you're a shaygit. See, if you say a shaygit, it's easy. Okay, you're a shaygit, we don't hold of you. You're not you're too smart for your own good. You're not pekoides. It doesn't say that you're not pekoides. It says you're going to stop learning.
What's the purpose to have chachma?
It doesn't say it's not going to have a purpose. This is all good Torahs. But they start in the Mishnah. And my Mishnah says, it doesn't say you're going to go to Gehenna because you're too smart. You're going to be like Rachman's Chochem, you're going to become, I don't know.
Because if you're not using it and you're not proving your chachma, then it's not chachma.
It doesn't say it's not Chachma, it says
Exactly.
It doesn't say Enledin Chachma.
No, it's a potential is a good chachma, but if you're not using it.
But the Leishtait is nicht. And the same thing, the Mushla from the Azari literally has a Mushla of a tree getting uprooted because of it being, top heavy. It can't stand. It doesn't say, it's a waste of time, you're stumbling, it doesn't say all these things. Why we're so used to, like my same medrash all the time, we're so used to not taking anything seriously, and everything is like, yeah, so of course you're really going to stay on it's nicht. So the Heilige Rambam seems to have had a similar kash on this Mishnah. It says like this. First thing it tells us about this Mishnah, in the Mishnah of Yitzchok, it says like this. First thing he says, this is the philosopher's also agree with this.
This is opening remark.
Yeah. I think that is referring to this shtick of philosophy that we just read. I can't be sure. And I don't have anyone that, nobody has good notes. Nobody that reads Rambam reads Aristotle, so even the people that pretend to be Rambam, so they don't really tell us where I should look, but I'm assuming that it means this shtickle or something similar to this. And why does he say that? Because obviously this sounds like a Frimish shtickle Mishnah. Kim the Rambam says, no, this is a Frimish shtickle. This is basically how the world works. He does this more times in another place. Whenever the Rambam needs philosophers to make the Mishnah stronger, he means to say, don't interpret this Mishnah like some Frimish Mishnah. Like Leiden, they say it's not. Aristotle didn't believe in nothing and he said it anyway. So there's some wisdom in it. Right? And it explains, it says like this, that the habit of good midas, if you have good habits, and he literally says, if you have good habits before you study Chachma, and then you have, which makes what having good midas means, right? Having good habits, good kinyan, it means it becomes part of, right, second nature, which is what explains in Shomne and Prakim, and then you will learn Chachma. And it actually says the word Chachma in Hebrew, which will explain you how good those habits were. I'm paraphrasing somewhat, but that's what it says. Then you will gain more happiness and more love for the Chachma, and you will want to add more because it will inspire you or explain you why what you're already doing is good. This is him quoting Aristotle and explaining the Mishnah, right? Because it's important to notice he's explaining the Mishnah because when he says Chachma here, he means the Chachma from the Mishnah, and it says Chachma in the Mishnah Kodesh in the Rambam, not in Arabic. So you know that he's explaining the Mishnah.
So what do you say? The reason to learn Chachma is to love the Chachma and then to
learn
more?
Let me say it again. Rambam is explaining this first dove of the Mishnah. Kol she'iras chetel kedemes t'chachmusai t'chachmusai meskemes. In other words, if you were a good bocher, went to yeshiva, and you learned to be a masmid, or you learned to have good habits, right? Be nice to your neighbors, and to be a good friend to your friends, and be mad in the right measure, and all kinds of good habits, right? Then you will learn Chachma. And what will this Chachma tell you? Among other things, at least. It might be telling you some things of Chachma, theoretically.
Those habits are very
among other things, Chachma will explain you why your Mashgiach was right, that it's not good to eat breakfast all day. You should, after breakfast, come to say that. But you've already been doing this. It's part of you. You can't eat breakfast all day because it's a habit that you have. And now you learn philosophy and you understand why that is true. Right? And the same thing will even explain you why it's good to learn, which is another habit that they Hakdama you in Yeshiva. Now, you will gain, right? Because the Chachma that you've already been doing in some sense, you've already been learning, you've already been Chachma, let's assume, among others, at least the Chachma of Mister, the Chachma of ethics, right? You learn, you already have been doing the good that the Chachma is talking about, but you didn't understand it, you didn't have it as Chachma, you had it as Yiraschet, you had it as good habits.
And endurance
But
is being
now you're going
expressed
to have
in
the
action,
same
or
thing.
endurance is being understood from a place of action?
Both. You will enjoy Chachma more and you will do more of it. You will learn more. Yes, you will learn more.
So what's the reason to learn? Because the reason to learn is to learn more. And why
Yes,
is to
of
learn
course.
more? And then to learn
I
more.
mean, there's a lot.
What's the end game?
Why is that a problem for me now? What all I'm explaining is why the Yiras, if you have Yiraschet before your Chachma will work better. Because it's we could say to me mechazik your habit that you already have. And not only be mechazik, it's actually showing you why the habit that you have is actually good.
So basically,
So you'll be very happy. That's all.
basically the whole life I knew that you have to learn. Chochmah maybe to them good luck. Talmud maybe to them maser.
No,
now you said maser maybe to them Talmud.
Yes, absolutely.
Exact opposite.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, Talmud is a big mas also. And I will let Talmud mas but yes, that's a different discussion. But and therefore, and the same thing, the opposite is even easier to see. If you have chachmusa kedemus liraschet, what the Ram translates as meaning you don't have yiraschet, right? You first try to do the chachma before having good habits. In other words, you have bad habits. In other words, you have mazel and abatlan and abaltav and all kind of things like that. You're busy with shtisim all day, and then you learned. Now, one of the things you'll see in the chachma is that you shouldn't be such a low life. So you're going to be mad at the chachma. It's not going to be making you more happy. Well, I was right all my life. Now I know why. It's going to say, well, I was wrong all my life. It's going to be very hard for you to learn, because learning means being dedicated to learning and not being dedicated to fressing. And among other things, it also means being a mensch and all kind of things like that. So therefore, it will be hard for you to learn, so you'll stop learning. That is the Rama's pshat of this Mishnah. If you already have good habits, then you're taught why those habits are good, you will learn and have the good habits. But if you have bad habits, and then you're taught that those habits are bad, you'll stop learning. Because the Chachma is fighting with you. Well, that's a silly way of saying it. It's just going to be hard for you. You're not ready for that. You're not going to appreciate it.
How perfect do you have to be in order to start learning?
The habits. Habits means not understanding.
There is a
Everyone, you should always start learning.
Look, I think about it practically, right? If you're someone who eats,
That's
if you're someone who
the
eats,
question. If
let's say you're someone who eats healthy
someone
food,
has
right?
bad habits, so you have protocol, right?
No, you should first have good habits.
How do you have good habits? You have to know that.
That's a plan.
So it's a chiyol level?
That's one of the habits.
No, you can't learn without good habits.
What?
You say you can't learn without good habits.
So you can't understand. You shouldn't come to the Shia philosophy. You should learn Mishnah Berurah first. The Ram was often said that time. You should have Busaviyah and have good habits. And then you should try to understand why. When he's talking here in Chachma, he means real Chachma. It means the Chachma that explains why those habits are good. The people that have bad habits should never come to an ethics class which discusses should we be wasting our time eating pizza, whatever.
Well, think about it this way.
Or you should learn all day. You should not come to that class if you're still learning eating pizza. Because it's just going to make you frustrated.
If you eat well and you feel good and you're healthy,
and
then you learn why eating that food. I know. I'm saying this is just a way to explain it. At least how I understand it.
Is it that you won't be able to learn? Like you're frustrated when you'll think it's saying something else?
No, you also don't understand its content.
The
Right?
frustration itself is not what's wrong with that.
Or if you
You'd be
don't have
frustrated.
good habits, but you're ready to make a change. So
No problem. Making a change is not another thing. Who makes changes? There's a side you have to make a change. You have to start slowly, the whole fear on that over there, it's all mahalach, it's not stop. nobody that comes, I'm going to make a change, never works, right? Echech Muslim Miskamas. Echech Muslim Miskamas means you stay in learning. Like they say in yeshiva. Very simple. And if you're not already a masmid, it's not going to happen. Of course, like you're saying, what do I do if I'm stuck? So you start somewhere. So I'm not saying you shouldn't start anywhere. Just explaining the Mishnah. Right? And explaining why some people that come to Bash class are not Muslim Miskamas.
You have to make a program for that.
No, I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't teach you the chet, sadly. That you have to go to yeshiva K'tana. Well, the people that have you chet in yeshiva K'tana, it's actually true. It's like all the guys say that if you yeshiva guy goes to college, he learns faster than all the other people because he has good habits of learning. I don't know if it's true, but it's supposed to be like that. The Get says a Mishnah, and the Ram says that this Mishnah is what the philosophers say. So it's funny, you would think that this is like the most anti-philosophy Mishnah, and the Ram turned it into like the most Aristotle Mishnah. But he didn't turn it in, he just obviously thought that it's talking about the same thing. It's not like he had a kasha, that's what I was explaining before. There's no kasha here to like force you to take this Mishnah, make this Mishnah not fit in, it's just that's what it's saying. So those are three Mishnahs that say this. And there's another mission that says this, which is in a little before in beis. It says, well, the deer says the opposite side of that, right? It says ein bori rechet and lem uretz chesed. And the Rambam here is doing the opposite, and like very interestingly in Hakdama to Perish Mishnah, said this Rambam. The first Hakdama says like this: it seems to be a lot of friend people don't believe in this, right? So over here, there's the philosophers that have a problem, so I have to tell you that philosophers also know that they have to have a chet. Right? But when we're saying the other side, which is that if you don't have, if you're a murid, you're not a chassid, we have to fight with the fremd people. The man was lynched, you know, chazal. And the Rambam does this, it's so amazing you can know him doing this, and it has this like language in the Hakdama, and where he says, if someone tells you that you could be a murid and a chassid, like you know, when Hanti taught me, he says someone a chassid, it means a murid, right? Nobody that's a chassid that going to chazal is called a Rav chassid and yeah. Rav chassid is a nice way of saying a hamur, it's a guru. Yeah? His idol was a tzaddik or something, you never know. But a Rav chassid, say the Rambam, if you say a Rav chassid and it's a amuret, it's not a koiris. The koiris di. Chazal is lo yamuret chassid. Then you're a chalik a chazal, you're smart than them, right? Shaygit. מחזיב החומם שגזרי בן יזק זהיר נחתכס. Chacham said clearly, lo yamar it's chassid. There's no exception. It doesn't say, but if you're the sheet, then Hashem loves you because you have good intentions, even if you're amaretz. It doesn't say. It says, lo yamar it's chassid. You can't be a chassid if you're amaretz. And then he says it's also true in Tzad Asech. Firstly, it's machzid and pekoides. Going against the chazal.
You say Rav chassid.
You know, there was a guy that used to. Well, I'm gonna explain to you. There was a guy that used to go to the city conditions and ask all the items if they believe that the Tzionim are worse than the Nazis. Because it says in Chazal, and if you don't believe this, you're because it's Chazal. So you're supposed to land this. So someone told him that he should go around also ask them if they all hold that Balabus is more than the Koiling Imam. Because as the Fed, Udlan Hem Yigei Kappa, yes, and Vidashmam, it's not in the Koiling. And same thing if you believe that you could be in a Murit and a Chosser. You're supposed to land this. Anyways, I'm just trying to explain the rhetoric how it works.
You say Rav chassid.
That's the Rambam.
In the word Rav, always there comes contradiction to this verse, right?
Exactly. You know, I saw if it says a good chassid, it means it's a aggressive chassid yagun. If it's a chassid yagun, the point is, lemons. Oh, so now the Rambam actually has a very precise explanation for this. Very interesting actually, and it matches very well. And later in Perik, I forgot in a different Perik. Later it explains in Perik Pad, it says about a goylem. He explains that he explains all these words. He says, "What's a bor? These are 5 levels. So a bor is someone who has nish get the midas and nish get the nish sayach. Like the Rambam explains the whole time that first you have to have good midas, then through that you can learn, like we just learned. So a bor is someone who's 0. He's up to 0. So in body rechet means if you're a body, not even a rechet. It doesn't even have rechet means someone has good habits. Doesn't know yet why. just the Erechet. It was told you have to be good habits, you have good habits. But a bar is even worse than that. That's the Rambam's explanation. Didn't learn anything, he didn't even believe anything. Punished. Then he could be Amuritz. Amuritz is best to be a bar. At least he's not a bar. What's Amuritz?
He has good habits.
Oh yes. Amuritz is like Amuritz, literally Yeshiva. He's a good guy, Tzachakal. Tor Goy, Tor Mensch, he's a good Mensch, he has good midas.
So what's a ball? A bomb?
A bomb, exactly. Bar is anyways Yeshiva Shloim even. Doesn't even, he's a gamer, He's a Mensch, but Amuritz is a Mensch. He has good habits. He just doesn't understand them, doesn't know why, doesn't have any level of knowledge. But he does have good habits. So that's why it says Le'am Oretz Chos. It doesn't say Le'am Oretz Yirechet. Amoritz could be Yirechet. You see? If they would write Rav Yirechet, then we'll still with the Ambam. The problem is not Yirechet. That's kind of the Chos. But Yirechet, everyone knows that he's not. But anyways, but Yirechet he could be. Because Yirechet means good habit just. Then the next level says the Rambam is okay, so that's Amoritz. Amoritz, right? It's good. You could be his friend. He's not a bad person. Then there's the Goylem. After Amoritz comes the level of Goylem. Goylem is someone who has a shtickle chachma. Goylem is matir chachma, That the Rambam.
Goylem should the best for jedem.
That's an Abar and Amoritz, yeah. The Shivit Vurim Begoylem. Shivit Vurim Begoylem are just like, the Rambam says it's incomplete chachma. Goylem is like a Shiva chachma. Can't say it's a bar. Can't say it's a get the book. But it's a good, right? It's nichnas l'vir chavayra, and it's kashoel in the mashiv kalacha, doesn't know where to start, where to end the sheet, He's always not prepared, and he always speaks, I'm not prepared, and I'm sheet, hello, it's not good, right? The Rambam says goyim is like gold miklietz, like an unfinished kindness. It's do have something going on, but it's like not complete. So the Mishnah of Shivut Vurim Goyim is trying to get you from a goyim to a chochem, right? But you're already Shivut Vurim Goyim, Shivut Vurim Chochem. It's only one step away from a chochem. So after not being a bar and not being a amuret, you can become a goyim. It's amazing. It's levels. No, but what the Rambam is doing is he's reading the Mishnah and seeing what it's talking about, and he's like organizing it it sounds funny when you put it down like this, but it's not the point of what he's doing. And after a goyim, there's something called a chochem, right? Chochem is a perfect person. That's philosophy. And after a chochem, there's one more level called chassid.
Lowy.
No, after chassid comes Navi. He's skipping that. Maybe it's the same thing. After goyim, this is just for him to explain the chazal's language, right? It's not. Maybe if you would talk about the level themselves, you might call them different names. After a chassid, a chochem, there's something called a chassid. A chassid is someone who not only has the correct seichel and the correct midas, but even has more good midas. Like we always say, a chassid is someone who is a little more, not even more than a tzaddik. What?
Why don't we just say la moritz? Because we could say la moritz goyim.
Amoritz nicht can go. I agree with you. It's a prayer. But chassid is like the highest level, like we discussed previously. Chassid is one level of the neviah. So Avad is not a chassid, but it's not even a goyim. I'm asking. It's true. He could be a rechet though, but he can be according to this logic. The problem is that a lot of Hamarats pretend to be Chassidim. Maybe that's what we have to say. There's nobody going around saying I'm a
all the difference between a bo and a amoritz is the Erechet, right?
Exactly.
So Nati can also be a Erechet. He is a Erechet. That's a definition of amoritz. Otherwise, it's a bo.
Yeah, exactly. All these people that we call Chosed, they would be called Rav HaMoritz.
Bo.
No, nicht kein Bo. If he's Taka Chos. If he's Abo, it's a Abo. And if he's like a gitter Rebbish kid, there's at least a Amuritz.
But
that's level to be a Amuritz. He's not finished Amuritz. So he's at least a Amuritz. But then you can be a God, like be a Chochem, then a Chos is the highest, and like we said, then you're Nufi. And it's problematic how to be a Chosed, it's another
what's
but anyways,
more than Chochem?
Because like he doesn't have any kas. The Chochem is someone that has kas for the correct things, and the Chosed is someone who has Mo'id Mo'id al-Shariach, and things like that. That's the Rambam's explanation of it. Alright, it says in the Mishnah that you should have be Mo'id Shariach, which means more than is proper. Really, a Chosed, Chochem knows how much he's worth. But a Chosed is exaggerating.
Admire the Derech HaMitzvah.
Yeah, Chochem is Derech HaMitzvah, and Chosed is a little more than Derech HaMitzvah.
So
that's why it's not clear. Maybe you shouldn't
Is
be.
that like the qualification of Hilchos and Hilchos? Like he.
But Amoritz for sure can't be a Chosed. Because if he's going to be a Chosed, he's just going for the rank of the Chochem. Maybe he could try to be. At least he should try. Maybe Amoritz Chosed shouldn't even try to be a Chosed because he can stand for the rank.
saying is this is the same chassid as in Hilchos Deis, who's able to move from the mean in a
slightly,
way.
exactly. That's why it's not clear if anyone should be a chassid. It's still problematic. That's why we have chachamim mas'adim, chasidim mas'adim, kind of things like that. It's not so simple. How did I get to this whole thing? Anyway, this is all just to show you that this whole like interesting thing where you need to start with good habits, and then you can understand things, which says in Aristotle is actually a Mishnah, definitely comes to the Rambam, and the Rambam just thought that it's a Mishnah. Like he didn't like say, well, how do we reconcile this Mishnah with Aristotle? Because not that. The Mishnah is talking about that, saying we have to in both directions, right? You can't like the shleimus of being a chassid, which is the highest level. For that, you really need a lot of knowledge. You can't be a knowledge. You have to first be a chacham, and a golim and a chacham. And the opposite, if you're a how do you call it? If you're not Yitzchok Kedemus Chachma or Imanira and Chachma, because not only that, your Chachma will sort of make you worse. So not sure if it will make you worse. It seems that it's going to make you worse in the example of the tree. Like it happens to some people. Makes sense.
Like it takes also the good habits, the little bit good habits which you already have.
Everyone here has good habits a little bit because you can't teach you.
No, if person comes with the example from the tree, right? The tree is falling, and then it takes also.
Better or worse than us.
This is the chayim. And it's ilan b'vayik l'sayid because he has more chachma than maasim. So his chachma is falling, right? The chachma is like the.
Only the chachma is falling, but not the good habits.
Okay.
No, that's my question.
I don't know. I can imagine that the whole thing is
no,
getting
you
destroyed.
said the chachma is going to make
no, but
it
it's
worse.
a critique of the chachma.
I think it's going to make you worse because I'll tell you why. Because, well, it's hard to say what it means worse. Like, yeah, but because I'll tell you why. Because
If it
takes the
I
good
was saying that
habits
from
which you
experience,
already have.
not from
What?
not from the Dik and the Mishnah. I said it makes it worse from experience. Because if you're a good person, this is really this is experience. If you're a good person that has good habits, and this is for a lot of levels of good habits, and like I said, good habits in the sense of Kabbalah Stars, Rimkat, you went to Yeshiva, they told you it's good, so you believe them for some reason. And if you have those good, no, you should. You see, you should, because otherwise you're never going to get anywhere. And you have to hope that that be good habits. But there's always some, even if they're messed up, there's some good in it. And if you have those good habits, then you explain, what is so good about it, and you can get to it, right? But if you don't have those good habits, then there's nothing to explain. And not only that, it's going to be against what you think are good. Maybe there's a way to, I'm not saying you're lost case, but you might end up having even worse habits. It says, the Rambam says this explicitly in other places. It's supposed to be something that happens often. Like if I come to someone, like I said, by example, like if you go to yeshiva, you get this like habit that learning is very important. Nobody knows why. At least get that habit. It's both a habit of like sitting and learning, it's also a habit of respect for learning. It's also a habit. Habit in the sense of something you're used to thinking, you don't know why. Then you come to my class and I explain you why. So now you're so happy. And you're going to learn even more. Right? But what if someone who has the opposite habit, right? And I'm like here to mean, and this guy is dumb fake, he's just a film guy, and he found fancy philosophical way to say he's finished this. So it become even worse, because now you even show that there's not even any chance for you to ever figure out that it's true. Makes sense.
Become a good marketer.
That person might be a good marketer. Yeah, maybe. And so on, for many things,
you can imitate the true and good things without them actually being true and good, right? Because you know how to the explanatory mechanisms of it without actually explaining or mechanically undergoing it.
You want to train yourself.
This is true even for some details. Maybe this is not what we're talking about, but I find it to be true even for like details. Like if someone went to a Chassidish Chai, where they taught him to go to the mikveh or something, and for men, women are supposed to do that anyway. And if I come and let's say if I'll come and explain it, what's the idea or something or the why, then I'll make him happy. He's going to go to the mikveh more or less, whatever. But it's going to become better. But if he's litvak, he never went to the mikveh, then me giving him the whole theory is not going to help anyone. Waste of time. He's not even going to waste of time. It's not like there's there's nothing to explain. Right?
He does
And not only
He
that,
does
he's going to think, this Kiddush guy is trying to get me to go to the mikveh, has a fancy theory. Blah. Who cares? He's going to even less go to the mikveh afterwards. That's actually the Muslim scammers. He's not even going to learn. No, he's not even going to want to learn about it because we don't believe in this.
And it's also the reasons that are given.
Right? We don't believe in it. So in other words, having him in a pshita is a very good skill for understanding later. That's the base.
You say basically that you have to be open to accept the knowledge. So if you are already doing it, then you have the motivation to be open and to understand it. And if not, you don't. But let's say you have another drive that you want to learn. So what's the reason I understand this is one drive, right?
Wow.
It matches my will and it's already my habits, and so I like it.
That's
why I want to learn. Okay,
How to
let's
become someone who
assume
wants
that
something?
I have another motivation.
That's another good thing.
So
That
why
is down.
wasn't kindness?
No, it's, I think you're saying that, like, let's say I want to, well, the classical music example, if I want to appreciate classical music for a reason other than appreciating it. Yeah, so there's ways,
I appreciate it.
there's ways
For
to learn how
whatever
to
reason,
want
I
something
have
for its own
another
sake.
motivation. No, if you say the only thing I have to have good habits because what? Because it makes me motivated to learn and to like it because I already did it, right? That's
Yeah, well,
what
also it also it's
No, that's why you should have good habits.
So why? No, you say wasn't is because why?
Because you're gonna hate it.
So let's assume.
If you don't hate it, then you do have good habits already.
No,
At least you don't hate
let's
to
assume
learn.
I don't have good
One
habits,
good
but
habit.
I'm not gonna hate it because I have another motivation I want to learn.
then you probably miss
No, but
misuse it.
no. I understand the question because I'm assuming that the chachma that we're talking about here is the chachma that's pertaining to those good habits in a specific way. If you want to say like I just want to know everything, that's also a good habit. Wanting to know everything is a good habit. And Hakdama. But you have to remember that knowing anything means eating less, dressing less, actually, dressing less. You know why?
Not enough time.
Exactly. And it's not only time, also whatever. It's also like biological things. It's more about dedication than time. I think time is not. It's a very easy way of saying it, but like it's also want. You don't know anything you don't want to know, and if you also want other things, then you know a little bit less things. That's why I don't know so many things. You also want other things, but right. So just and if you're going to
Why? Because you preoccupy with
yeah. Anything worthwhile learning is
It's not because of how you'll appropriate the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, if I want to know, say I want to know how to teach people because I want to know how to teach because teaching is a good thing, right? If I don't want to know how to teach people and I learn how to teach, I might teach people who don't want to be taught or something like that.
Well, you might not learn how to teach people. You're going to learn something else, like how to manipulate people,
Okay,
which is a different thing to want to know.
Right, but I'm saying is you knowing how to teach without wanting to teach you will learn something, but that something won't be geared towards that activity as it's meant to be done.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm saying it's possible, but it's like already a lot more than we have to say. I'm like saying, number one, if we're talking about this precise knowledge, chachma of that thing, then everyone agrees with what we say. If we're talking about like some like more theoretical knowledge, which is like let's say I have curiosity, and curiosity is sort of the thing that makes people. There's a lot of different levels of curiosity. But curiosity means I want to know just for knowing, right? Which is knowledge for knowledge's sake. And I don't think it's a contradiction. It's going to be contradictory with some of the bad habits you have, which is like waking up late and missing the class. Just then you're never gonna learn anything. But and then that also might cause the same kind of conflict which makes it worse or at least not better. Or in even like a more very serious sense where like really just knowing all the time means just caring about that and if you also care about other things and you have the habit of caring less about other things and so on, it's going to contradict. Now this is not to like make people that don't have Yitzchok feel bad. That didn't mean to say that. Just meant to explain the opposite. To make the people that only have good habits.
Just say a few of those here doesn't have good habits.
What?
Just at the beginning of the shir, few of those here doesn't have good habits.
And just the fakir, it's to promote people working on habits without understanding. And to recognize that, because I have a lot of friends that are Toyah L'Rishonos, because they taught a lot of good habits, and then they hate them because those habits were taught without seichel. And maybe another end of the shir is to make people stop being toilet ashamed. You shouldn't do tshuva on the good things you did. You should do tshuva on the bad things you did. One of they say this of growing up is to even though have a lot of regrets, but you should try to have regrets on the good things and not on the bad things and not on the good things. Some people have only regret on the good things they did, and don't regret any of the bad things they did. Very funny thing that happens to some people. And one of the reasons is because I'm and I don't do things just because. But many of the things that you did just because you're a good boy and get the gimel, were actually good things. And it's actually good, and it's actually a good way of growing as a human being to do things just because, or just because your mother told you first. And then you'll learn why, and then you'll do them even better. And there's nothing wrong with that, that's actually good.
It's better than
If you get stuck with it, it's brown, but it's better than having bad habits.
You have to start with the kids somehow. You have to start.
Yeah,
kids don't understand.
Yeah, okay. That's the sheet.
Sheet today.
10 o'clock.